So I'm Councillor Millard and I am the Chair of the Licensing and Enforcement Committee. Before we begin proceedings, I wish to remind everyone that this meeting is being live streamed on the Council YouTube channel. The recording of the meeting will remain online for 4 years, and if you are present in the chamber, you are consenting to appearing in the recording and broadcast, which may also be used for training purposes. I intend to run down the agenda in order tonight, beginning with apologies. Do we have any apologies, please?
Yeah, so Councillor Radley has sent apologies, hence why Councillor Conda is substituting.
Okay, welcome and thank you. Can I just remind everyone, laptops to be on silent and mobile phones to be on silent, please? Does any member wish to make a declaration of interest, please? No? Okay. Are members content to sign the minutes of the previous meeting as a true and accurate record? Yeah, we're all okay with that? Is it those I'm signing?
Yeah.
Thank you. So, I have not been made aware of any public questions. Can the Democratic Electoral Service Officer confirm this is the case, please?
Yeah, we have received no public questions.
Thank you. I'm also not aware of any petitions or deputations. Can the Democratic and Electoral Service Officer confirm this, please?
Yeah, that's also correct. We haven't received any petitions or deputations.
Thank you. We now move on to the first report to consider. May I ask that the Community Wellbeing Officer, Becky, to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to ask members to approve the Statement of Principles and recommend that the revised statement is approved and adopted by the Council before it can advertise and publish it. The Council is required under Section 349 of the Gambling Act 2005 to review and republish its Statement of Principles every 3 years and to follow the procedure in respect to the form statements must take and the procedure to be followed in relation to the preparation, review or revision of statements and the publication of statements. The document sets out the general approach to how the Council intends to administer and enforce its duties under the Act. The current statement is due to expire in December 2024 and a new statement must be in place by the 31st of January 2025. Following the review, there were no proposed changes to the statement other than to amend the date it takes effect, and therefore it was not considered necessary to carry out a public consultation with stakeholders on this matter. Once the findings of the current consultations to the White Paper, as set out in paragraph 3.9 of this report, have been published, we will review the statement again, and if there are any changes to the document, a report will be presented to L&E requesting members' approval for a full consultation with all stakeholders. It is worth noting, though, that the review of the Gambling Act and subsequent White Paper was implemented under the Conservative government, so its findings are currently on hold whilst the DCMS update new Labour ministers and wait to see how they choose to proceed. To sum up, the Council must advertise the publication of the Statement of Principles by publishing a notice on its website and in one or more of the following places as set out in paragraph 7.3 of this report. We will advertise the publication in a public-facing area of the Council's new reception in Eastgate Street. The Council must then publish its Statement of Principles at least 4 weeks prior to the date it is to come into effect, the effective date being the 31st of January 2025. We will publish the document on the Council's website and make a copy of the document available for public inspection at the main library in Brunswick Road and at the Council offices. Due to the publication and advertising requirements, the revised Statement of Principles will need to be agreed by full Council on the 21st of November 2024, as that is the last meeting of full Council before the 1st of January 2025 deadline. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No? The only question I do have is on page 52, we have a list of organisations. Can you confirm that these contact details have been checked and they are accurate? Can we just double check? The only reason being is citizen advice, I don't believe is now detailed as Gloucester and district citizen advice. It's North Gloucester and something. And I'm just conscious if someone is using this report to obtain contact, it may well misdirect them. Is that okay? Are all members happy to agree the report on principle that the contact details on page 52 will be checked before going further? Yeah? Okay, thank you very much. The Gambling Act. Sorry, go on then.
Yep. Consultees on page 48, where it says Richard Graham MP, he's no longer the MP, and we have 2 MPs for Gloucester now. So can that be amended, please? Thank you.
On those amendments, is everyone happy to agree the document? Yep. Okay, thank you very much. If we then move on to item 7, the Local Government Act 1976 Hackney Carriage Tariff Increase. Can the licensing team leader please introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to outline to members a proposal submitted by Gloucester Hackney Carriage Association for an increase to the current Hackney Carriage tariff. The association, on behalf of its members, have submitted a proposal requesting an increase of 5% to the current tariff. The primary reason for the trade's request is that all other costs have increased. Hackney carriage fares are made up of an initial hiring charge and a mileage rate, both of which are expressed in terms of distance and or time. For members' ease, the table in paragraph 3.6 compares the current tariff against the new proposed tariff. And the proposed Hackney carriage fares can be seen in Appendix 1. Therefore, the Licence and Enforcement Committee is asked to resolve the recommendations in paragraph 2 of the report. And I've got 2 trade members here today who can answer any questions that members may have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor O'Donnell?
Thank you. I'm just a bit concerned for the old dears and people with disabilities who rely on the taxis for doctor's appointments and going to pick up prescriptions. That it's going to outprice them. I know they've got to make a living and they need to keep up the cost of living, but could they make it a smaller rise, say 3%? It's still a rise, but then it won't alienate all the old dears and disability people. Thank you.
Trade, would you like to answer that, or do you want to leave it to Darren to answer? Do you want to come and sit at the mic for us, please?
Yeah, that must be stated.
Right. Basically, the reason we come up with the 5%, we had the last increase we had was in March 23. We hadn't previously had an increase then for 4 years. We worked out at that time for that 4-year period, we should have been really asking for probably a 16% increase. If we asked for a 16% increase and we got that, that would affect our trade. Because obviously, as you well know, if you use a taxi today and it was 16% more than it was yesterday, people wouldn't think, oh, it's gone up 16% in 4 years. They'll think, oh, it's gone up 16% since yesterday. So again, no, it's another 18 months. And we've looked at the rates of inflation and we walked around the trade, spoke to the members, said, look, what do you think you would like? What do you think is justifiable to ask for? And we did have people say just 3 or 4%. We had people say 10% because of the rate, the amount what we hadn't got the previous years. So it meant that we were lagging behind. If you look at the tables there compared to what the rates are in Cheltenham, Stroud, they all have increases virtually every year. We take upon ourselves that we missed some opportunities in the past not to have increases, but then we always ask for an amount which we think is acceptable to the public and it wouldn't affect our trade. I do appreciate the comment on saying 3%, because obviously if it's a smaller increase, people are happier to pay that little bit of difference. But I personally think that 5% was a well worked out and thought of amount, and I think it's a sensible sort of price for us and for the customer.
Thank you. Any other questions? I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind. So my first question is, with the 5% increase and with Uber coming in, have you thought of whether you are pricing yourself out of competition with Uber?
We've taken that into account recently, because obviously we put this proposal in before Uber was recognised for Celebrity coming in. It still doesn't reduce our outgoings. Insurance is our biggest cost this year. Most of the drivers, 40% increase, biggest one we've ever seen. Running costs more and more. This is what we talked about, all these things to come to the 5%, because there was a lot of drivers saying, well, we need more than that. It's not about what you need, it's what you think could be accepted and reasonable. And that's how we got to that 5%. And yes, Uber's a different thing. We are talking about the taxi trade more than the private hire trade here, because the taxi trade, taxis working on the meter, off the rank, in the streets, etc., etc. I think whether we had a 1% increase or a 20% increase, anything like Uber coming in and it's in the town hard, is going to have an effect on everybody.
Okay, thank you. My other question is probably for the officers. So with this having to be advertised, has the advertising cost been planned into the department budget?
With the slight fee increase last year, it was factored in, but obviously we will have to look at the fees this year and factor in any additional costs that we may have.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone got any more questions? No? Okay, thank you. So are members happy to pass that one? Yeah? Councillor O'Donnell, do you want? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. That's been agreed. Thank you. Right, we are now on to item 6, which is the street trading policy review. Can the licensing team leader please introduce this report?
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, just one moment, sorry. Trade, you can leave now if you so wish. Are you more than welcome to stay? Thank you both. All right, thank you. Sorry, Darren.
No problem. Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek the Licensing Enforcement Committee's approval of the draft street trading policy for the next 12 months. The current street trading policy was adopted in 2017 and is now due to be reviewed. The draft policy is attached as Appendix 1 of this report, and the changes are shown in red. Most of the policy remains unchanged, apart from tidying up some of the wording. As there are no major changes to the policy, it has been decided that there is no need for it to go out for consultation in this instance. Therefore, the Licensing Enforcement Committee is asked to resolve the recommendations in paragraph 2 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Has anyone got any questions on item 9, please?
Yeah, thank you. I've got some concern about the street trading, mainly for the fact that, I mean, they've been part of Gloucester, massive part of Gloucester, for as long as I can remember. And it kind of makes me remember that Gloucester City was a true market town. You know, we don't want to lose sight of that. And I'm worried that we want to close 2 of the roads off to them on the Eastgate, Westgate, all those streets, but there's not enough footfall as it is through the end of town, and I'm just worried that we're going to be upsetting them unnecessarily.
Darren, could you come back on that one?
Yeah, Councillor O'Donnell, we're not proposing to prohibit any of the 2 streets that was mentioned in the report. That was giving you a background of what happened back in September 2022. And after consultation with the Cabinet member and the Chair, it was decided to remove that bit of the report, or of that report and the policy. So now it's there for 12 months that we're not taking away those 2 streets. So street trading, or those ones concerned, that was for Eastgate Street and Northgate Street, or no, Westgate Street previously, has now been taken off.
Thank you for that. But I've also got another concern about the fees. I think we need to safeguard the local traders that come to Gloucester. I mean, they've got a massive following of public from Gloucester anyway. So for them to be disappeared or anything like that would be quite sad, to be fair. But what I'm worrying, I know we're going to be looking at the fees at a later date. I understand that. But I think we should maybe look at safeguarding them, not hiking up the prices so high, because they do struggle with footfall in town. So I'm just worried that for the next meeting, when we look at I know it's the next meeting, it's got nothing to do with tonight, but I'm just worried that if we hike up their fees too much, they're going to start leaving, and no one's going to have any resemblance of a market town anymore. So I just feel like we should be safeguarding them against high prices and stuff like that. It's like the indoor market. I've spoke to a lot of customers there. Too many people are shutting up shop there. And they're all saying that when the refurb comes, they're probably not going to be allowed back in, or the prices are going to be hiked up too high. Again, true market town style, it's always been there. It's been there since 1600. I think it was Richard the Singer somewhat in it. But, when it comes to it, I feel like we should be protecting these store holders. As it is a market town, we need to hold that vigil on it, just so it doesn't disappear completely out of Gloucester. I'm waffling now, so I'll shut up.
Thank you. Would you like to come back on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Chair. With regards to markets, it's not a function that I oversee in licensing. It is a market town, so we have got the market charter, and that's with a different department. Going back to your answer in terms of the fees, we have to make sure that the service is cost neutral. So we do need to review those fees to see if obviously we can't make a profit, but we can't make a loss. So I put that in there because we need to have a look at it and review to make sure that the service is being run because it's a cost neutral basis.
So, any more questions? Councillor Patel?
Thank you. Just a question about the timing of this. Is it normally run from September to September, or is it normally on the same time as a financial year? Or do we have these different policies such as this one at different times of the year? Or should it have been, has this been delayed for any particular reason? Does that make sense?
I'll try and break down that question for you. In terms of the policy, yes, it came back to this committee in September 2022. Members at the time weren't happy with the recommendations, and one of them was in particular to prohibit to the gate streets for that. But obviously, we've had new administration now. We've spoken to the Cabinet member, and the reason why it's only going for 12 months is so they've got to allow them more time to understand and digest one of the reasons behind why we're going to put prohibited in for those 2 streets.
Any other questions? Okay, so can I ask that we approve the street trading policy for the next 12 months? Everyone in agreement? Okay, fantastic. And that we ask officers to review the current fees and charges and report any changes to the next licensing and enforcement committee. Agreed? Thank you. Okay. Right, we are now moving on to item 9, the quarterly report. So over to you, licensing team leaders, for the quarterly report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look at the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Condell?
That would be included in the quarterly update, and she couldn't see it. Now, I haven't had a chance to look through everything, so I expect other people have. Is it there or is it not?
Yes, it was brought up at the last committee. An email has been sent out to all members of the Licensing Enforcement Committee with detailed updates of that. So it will be in her inbox for that purpose. So it's forced with the community wellbeing team. It's from the community wellbeing manager who gave a detailed update of that.
Any other questions, comments?
Got 6 breeders licensed. I mean, that's not a lot considering how many people there are in Gloucester, and it takes 5 minutes to look online and you can see them all. And some of them are making over £2,000 a litter. I mean, it's hard. You can't stop somebody in the street and say you're a dog breeder. It just won't work. But you can actually look online, find these people, and think, you know what, we're going to have it. And if they haven't got a licence, council will then be able to find them and make money for the council. I mean, most of the adverts are just whacked on there by people that might not know that they need a breeding licence. I mean, I don't know who wouldn't know that now, but you know, it's quite disturbing. And I mean, there are even some of them that bring them up in hostile situations. It's just absolutely tragic. But why aren't these adverts being investigated so that we can then make more fines, make people more aware that they need a licence for dog breeding? They just can't breed them every year willy-nilly and make all that money and not have to have the licence. You know, I mean, Freedom of Information also shows that only one person in Gloucester has ever been prosecuted, which amazes me because there are so many people out there that are doing it. So I was just wondering, how are we going to move forward with the dog breeding in Gloucester? Thank you.
Shall I answer that one, Chair? It's not that easy, because within the legislation there is actually a business test, so people can breed dogs and not necessarily need a licence. I do understand where you're coming from, because dogs are sold for quite a lot of money, so the majority of the time even 1 litter may need a licence. Also, there's specific information you need really to make a data protection inquiry to the platforms, so Pets for Homes, etc. And sometimes just looking at those adverts online, it isn't giving you enough information. So we do rely on people reporting these things to us.
Any other questions? Councillor?
Well, the legislation dictates that it's usually trading standards who will carry out test purchases, but we do work with the police, and if we do have intel, they will go out and target these particular premises. I haven't got the figures, but if you want me to get the figures to you, I can send them on to you. Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you. Just following up on Councillor O'Donnell's question about the dog breeding. It does sound like it is a big issue and a big problem, but it's difficult to get the evidence. Is that what you're saying? Because it seems like in one particular case, we went all out to make an example of this individual. But in other cases, we may be turning a blind eye, or we may have too much workload that we're not interested in genuinely tackling or addressing this problem. I know in my ward, I've received reports of an individual who has a litter of about 8 dogs, which apparently he's selling, but he's not actually advertising it on social media or the internet, whereas other breeders are. Yet, when neighbours are complaining about barking noises and the welfare concerns of the dogs, neither the City Council or the RSPCA seem to be interested. So, are we genuinely interested in tackling this problem, or are we just providing a reactive service if as and when necessary? Because it doesn't seem to me like there's a proactive approach. We're saying if we receive complaints, then we might look into it. How is our policy on this subject? And so for example, can the City Council provide me with numbers of how many cases we've investigated or we've received complaints about in the last 12 months, last 24 months, last 36 months? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. I can provide that information to you if you would like. Obviously, we look at these things and we investigate, and if we think we've got a case, it will go to one legal, who will then determine whether it meets the public interest test and what have you, and whether we go with it or we might.
Thank you. So just coming back then, can we as a committee, I don't know if members agree or not, if we can have some figures on how many cases we received complaints about in the city, how many we've proactively sought online as part of our investigations, and how many dog owners or breeders or sellers we've written to or emailed or contacted. Because it'd just be interesting to know how seriously we're taking this problem, because I think it's getting bigger and bigger, not just in the city, but in the country in general, because there's a lot of money involved, isn't there? Thank you.
I can provide that information to you.
And the other reason for that question partly is also about resource as well, whether you have the resource to be able to manage and cope with the challenging situation that we have at the moment.
It is quite challenging, and we've got only 2 officers in the community wellbeing team that deal with animal licensing. That's myself and Julie Turner. So yeah, staffing does come into it a little bit.
Councillor Condor.
Thank you. To continue discussion about dog breeding, we had a spate of dog attacks during the summer, often by known breeds and often by breeds that couldn't really be identified. But I'm not a dog owner myself, but I understand that the way a dog is reared in its early life can contribute to how it behaves as an adult and how it responds to any human interaction. So I think it's really important that we do know who's breeding them, and that they are being kept in proper under proper conditions and trained properly until the moment comes that they're handed over to their new owner, because, you know, further down the line this could result in an attack on another dog or a child or an adult. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I don't know whether it falls under this item, Darren, but I'm sure you'll inform me if it doesn't, or whether it needs to be in the exclusion one. So just to make councillors aware that there was a subcommittee that was an exclusion. Yeah, okay. I'll do that one under the next item. Is there any other questions? No?
Yes,
Sorry.
thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, following on from the possible lack of resources that you faced, you just brought that up just a moment ago, for tackling potential illegal dog breeding or without a license. Whether, some element of future work could take place to assess what kind of resources are needed in order to tackle it, and that could go into section 6 of the next quarterly report, because at the moment, future work, it says none. So that could be a good way to spend a little bit of time just to do a little bit of assessment so that the work could be carried out, there's a reasonable scope to do that. Just a suggestion.
Yes, we can do that. Thank you.
Just to see what the costs, maybe even over the last, decade, what it would have costed or, what it will cost going forward as well.
The new regulations that we're working under at the moment came in 2018. So
Okay, so six years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very good, thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor?
Thank you. The item, a little paragraph about gambling, about gaming machine compliance. Councillor Radley raised with me the question, I don't know how common these machines are, but the grab machines that we're familiar with at the seaside. She says they're no longer, they're not games of chance. They are now controlled by algorithms. So they are gambling rather than sheer luck. And do we have, are we aware of any of those machines in operation in the city? And if so, are they controlled in any way if they do qualify as a gambling machine rather than a lucky dip, so to speak?
that's that, Chair. Yes, they're categorised as Category D gaming machines, as you said, so they will be subject to the machine regulators' technical standards. So yeah, there are some in the city, not as many as there previously was, but during my compliance checks, there were 2 premises that had the grab machines in, and there'll be some at 10 pin, I would imagine, as well.
Any other questions? Are members happy to note the contents of the report then? Yeah, okay, thank you. Moving on to item 10. So I do have one comment, so I Recording, yeah, okay. So we are now on to item 12, which is the date of the next meeting. So we are on, which is to announce the date of the next meeting, which is the 10th of December. I will now ask the Democratic and Electoral Service officers to end the stream. Thank you, everyone. Okay, meeting closed. Thank you all. Thank you.